Snipers, you have to see what's happening in the cryptocurrency market today. We are starting to see Bitcoin come down to potentially see a garden variety market retest of an extremely important resistance level that will now have to act as a support level if we want to assume further upside for Bitcoin. And there is also confluence at this exact area with the monthly open at 37,300. And I had to make this critical update because we know this is an extremely important retest. If we start to come down to test this monthly open, you can see it acted as resistance once, twice, a third time, a fourth time, and a fifth time. And so that needs to act as a support level if we're going to come down and see a garden variety market retest of a major level, which is totally fine. And still, the bullish bias is in action because we are above the structural resistance area. But what I really want to talk to you guys about today is when we look at what's happening to altcoins, Ethereum being the largest altcoin right now, it is starting to look like we could potentially start seeing further downside for Ethereum to the Bitcoin chart. And that typically happens when there's a lot of fear in the market. But realize, as I talked about yesterday, we have this high and this lower high. And if we were to come down in the macro, it wouldn't be too big of a deal because this could still be looked at as a bullish flag. And if we were to come test the 53,500 Satoshi area, that could be the area that it would be a very good long opportunity for Ethereum because the Ethereum to US dollar price, if we start to see this play out, could potentially come to retest this 200-day moving average at that $1,800 level. I want to talk about what this would mean for altcoins because Ethereum is the largest altcoin and other altcoins may follow this path. And this typically happens when there's fear in the market, which we know this fear has yet to subside fully, especially after what happened with Tesla, Elon Musk. And when we look at the market environment outside of Bitcoin, I'm going to talk about that in just a sec, like traditional markets, there are some puzzle pieces we have to address, but others' dominance right now is at a very critical level as well. At this 20-week moving average, which is home base, it's the only chart in the crypto market above home base, still in a bullish trend. Bitcoin dominance way in below the 20-week moving average. The total cryptocurrency market cap chart struggling to get above home base at the 20-week moving average. And of course, Bitcoin far and below the 20-week moving average. We need to monitor this others dominance chart to assume what is the storyline into Q3 and Q4 for the cryptocurrency market when it comes to altcoins against Bitcoin. But we have to also address the environment outside of Bitcoin right now because when we look at the DXY, we're starting to see this curvature, and on the weekly chart, it's starting to look like we want to come back up and get above this 20-week moving average. We could close the week above this 20-week moving average at home base. This could confirm the potential reversal here, almost like a double bottom formation for the DXY, and we're already starting to see the effects of this. We know if the DXY starts to come up and show strength and there starts to become more volatility in this chart, it will affect the asset prices like Bitcoin and traditional markets. The S&P 500 now on the daily chart, you can see starting to see some weakness, starting to come down to this 50-day moving average. Is this a puzzle piece on the table that we're going to see a pullback in the overall markets? But Bitcoin, keep in mind, is still over 40% down from the all-time high that it saw on April 14th. Is this a major puzzle piece saying that Bitcoin still could be the most attractive asset to inject capital into once we see this garden variety pullback, potentially only to the monthly open before we see the upside scenario to that $50,000 level, which we know would be a confirmation above this 200-day moving average because that's a successful rescue operation. And so that 200-day moving average sitting at 42,000 right now is also an extremely key level, as we talked about yesterday. There's a lot to look at today. We're going to have to go into some of the smaller charts, and we're going to go and deep dive into altcoins, others dominance, and then traditional markets. You guys are watching the Snipers channel. My name is Naeem Alabedi. Remember to smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm, Snipers. First, I want to talk about what's happening to Bitcoin. Let's pull up this 4-hour chart. So we notice now we are still maintaining this 200 period moving average on the 4-hour chart. That's a very bullish sign. If we start to see upside here and we hold this weekly open at 38,900, that's the preferred bullish scenario to see continued upside. But keep in mind, as I talked about yesterday, a garden variety market retest of this monthly open at 37,200 would totally be normal in a bullish reversal because this is a major level that acted as a resistance 5 times already. And so the first retest of that is totally fine with me If we start to breach below this monthly open at 37,200, there's also confluence with the 50 period and 100 period moving average and the structural resistance. That would be the sign of concern. And really, we can just look at the previous weekly open at 35,800 at that point, because that would assume that we could open the door to see more price action within the $35,000 to $24,000 range. And so that's the downside scenario if we breach this monthly open, if we're not able to hold a previous resistance as a support, because that is the preferred scenario if we want to assume further bullish bias for Bitcoin. But whenever we do start to see upside, when and if that happens, what we need to monitor once again is a $42,000 level. There's a major resistance at 41,950. That's confluence with the 200-day moving average. This is the confirmation of a successful rescue operation that would lead Bitcoin most likely towards the 150 period moving average on the daily chart, and over 20% upside potential from 42,000 to that $50,000 level. And so that would be a very normal thing for Bitcoin after a death cross, as we've seen in every death cross in the past. If you look at 2019, if you look at 2018, we've seen Bitcoin come up after a death cross 40% out of nowhere, seeing abnormal activity. And sometimes we've seen it come down in the macro after seeing that push to the upside. But that doesn't matter at this point. We just want to ensure that we have the confirmation above the 200-day, or if we get confirmation below this previous week low open at 35,800, we know that's the downside. The upside at the 200-day moving average 42,000, that's also the confirmation for the upside. So very nice and tight range for those that took the long here at 37,500. I think we're safe. If we see this pullback, if we come below 37,500, we have to start being cautious, and the weekends are the most manipulated. So for those subscribed to the channel, we'll cover it on the weekends. And I want to talk about what's happening to altcoins. We look at Ethereum, the biggest altcoin that's going to give us a leading indicator of how the other altcoins could potentially react in the short term to medium term. We're starting to come and breach this 100-day moving average, this weekly open at 2,500. At this point, the door is open to 1980. Now, if we come to test 1980, I think there's a high chance we also come down to test 1760, where we have the next major support and the 200-day moving average. And the reason I wouldn't be surprised to see that, and Bitcoin can do whatever it wants in that time frame. Bitcoin can still be consolidating in this lower range while that happens. And the reason I say that is because the Ethereum to Bitcoin chart is showing weakness. And so it could be a weaker asset in the short term. We typically see that when there's a lot of fear in the market. A lot of people hedge into Bitcoin the same way in traditional markets, institutions hedge into gold. And so if we come down to test 53,500, that's the level we want to hold. That could be the potential signal of an entry with the Ethereum US dollar price, because they have very, very good correlations. And if you want to trade the Ethereum to US dollar price in the best manner possible, you have to keep in mind the Ethereum to Bitcoin chart, right? And then the total cryptocurrency market cap chart in the weekly chart, we've yet to reclaim home base. So we want to monitor this. Once again, I'm not expecting much price action that would take us below 1 trillion. If we come down for a higher low, whatever it might be, I'm totally cool with that. But we certainly don't have strength right now on the total market cap chart. And with Bitcoin dominance, we're seeing that fear with price action above the 50-day moving average, way below home base. And so, like I've been talking about, if we come to 50% dominance, that's totally fine with me. A garden variety market retest of home base at 20-week is still a bearish trend. But if we get above it, that's when we could start assuming an uptrend here for Bitcoin dominance. So I'm not going to sit here and call altcoin season over when we've yet to get a confirmation below home base at the 20-week moving average. But we also want to monitor the 20-week on the others dominance chart here at that 12.6% dominance level, because that is a major support right now. Now, let's talk about what's happening in traditional markets. This is extremely important. You can see gold, very similar to Bitcoin, testing a previous breakout level right now. And so a lot of this is happening right now. This downside in gold, the downside in Bitcoin, the downside in traditional markets are because of the upside in the DXY, right? And so we want to monitor this as we close tomorrow. For the DXY, we are seeing a push to the upside. We need to keep that in mind. Now, the S&P 500 starting to look like it wants to have another test here at the 50-period moving average. We are starting to come below the monthly open. We want to monitor that. And then international markets outside of traditional markets are also reacting to the DXY. And so we need to start really keeping mind of how these traditional markets are going to react into the end of this week, because that's going to give us an early indicator of how the weekend will be for Bitcoin. But right now, there's a scenario that we could see a garden variety market retest and still see upside. So I want to make that clear for you guys, snipers. And if you want to win one of my favorite technical books on Bitcoin, Mastering Bitcoin, comment below your favorite altcoin. Remember to smash the like button and share this video, and you'll have a chance to win. I'm going to pick a winner from our video yesterday to win Mastering Bitcoins, and we're going to wrap up this video. Scotty, good to see you here, man. Still here since 2017. Appreciate you, Naeem. Send me a message on Instagram, Scotty. I'd love to reconnect with you, man. You want a book. And with that, thank you all for tuning in to the Snipers channel today. Remember, we are translating all of our content in 9 different languages, and we want to start growing these channels. It's a struggle to grow a brand new YouTube channel. If you guys can show some support, subscribe to these international channels we have. I'm very sure you guys are going to enjoy seeing our content in different languages. It's not just subtitles, but it's also the voice in a different language. And so all of our videos are going to be translated on a daily basis on those channels. I'd love for you guys to show some support on those channels. And with that, thank you all for tuning into the Snipers channel today. Until next time, Snipers out.